Hi everybody, I'm here in my library. Time to do the thing I do and get real analytical. So Pixar's Cars, a series of 2.5 movies that somehow evolved into this entire race car entity, has a lot going on. It's been done to death, but I'm sure everyone's looked past the plot and has tried to make sense of how anything works or functions. It's really a phenomenon. You know, at first the series was logical to an extent. Throughout the first movie, it was a simple racing story that made just enough sense to make everything function. But once you spend more than 5 seconds looking away from the plot, an infinite hellscape of problems show up and gives my migraines. Lightning McQueen starts off as an arrogant racer trying to win the Piston Cup. Already within the 10 minutes, I gotta ask several questions. Like, for a road-centered world, why aren't the roads wider so people can talk to each other instead of going like a single file line while traveling? How do spectators actually get into the stands? Why isn't Chick Hicks disqualified, if not arrested, for what's essentially assault, knowing that this is an illegal move? Regardless, if we treat these races like actual races, or more like track and field events, or just like 90% of all sports, this is an illegal move. Something should be done about this. But most importantly, right out the door, what are the cars? Actually, just all the vehicles. The trucks, the planes, the cranes, the boats, the double-decker buses, the forklifts. In terms of anatomy, I would say the closest comparisons like the Robots movie made by Blue Sky. In Robots, characters technically age, they get new parts and they deteriorate over time. This movie's all about Big Pharma making universal healthcare inaccessible. It also has a character named Big Weld. He's very round, he likes dominoes. Why did I bring this up again? Oh yeah, the reason I bring up Robots comes from the characters making the world building not expand to levels that destroy everything. And that's not what Cars does. In Robots, new life is built, need upgrades, they need to purchase new parts that simultaneously can act as new clothing and new body parts. Imagine instead of braces, we actually bought larger teeth to stuff in our flesh bags. It's just dentures, actually. Robots is entirely mechanical. Cars is a problem because the vehicles got these things called tongues, slurping, slopping, and pink fleshy tongues. Not only that, but the vehicles can feel pain, they can feel warmth and spice, and generally all the receptors humans do. But they still do car stuff like dent and drink oil. But then they also drink water, so maybe they function like hermit crabs, and or maybe they have to like protect their shell. Well, I guess you can make that argument. Though this creates a new problem where vehicles cannot become other vehicles because of genuine body dysmorphia. A truck cannot become a boat cannot become a plane, stuff like that. A good amount of issues come from the Disney Plus show Cars on the Road. Mater gets insecure that he's not a real truck. Another example, at the end of the first movie, Guido's made fun of for being a smaller forklift than usual, which is genuinely pathetic to make fun of a forklift. Like, why would you bully another forklift? You're a forklift in a universe where everyone else gets to fly or, I don't know, be a train. Like, shut up. Though the best example comes from planes, specifically the first movie. In this, the main guy, Rusty, is like a crop-dusting plane. He wants to be a racing plane, so he goes on and does that. But then after a while, in the second movie, his gearbox shuts down, and instead of using his racing money to hermit crab transfer into another plane, he has to take a break and become a firefighter, which is somehow less stressful than plane racing. It makes no sense, so I would assume they're built, they quote-unquote grow once or twice, and then they live in model until they die. That way, the vehicles can't be immortal, but they can get hospitalized due to things like injuries, dents, car accidents, all that stuff. This includes insects. The tractors function as cow equivalents. This implies the universe eats tractors and their tractor milk. I would assume tractor milk is oil. I don't even want to know. Like, there's dinosaurs. How does that even work? Prehistoric cars were stone. How does that work? In general, a surprisingly high gore tolerance also exists for most of the population. Like, Lightning McQueen will be unfazed if he sees a live leak. Mater especially makes me uncomfortable. Namely, if we take a good old golly gander at human equivalents and we treat the hood of the car as the rib cage holding in the vital organs, Mater's just got that shit dangling. At one point, Mater nearly dies from going too fast. He meets his guardian angel, and this implies that, at minimum, Christianity's afterlife exists in the Cars franchise. The Pope Mobile furthers this religious belief. Then in this kerfuffle, Mater cheats death, and it's shown that the soul drives the car, as Mater only regains consciousness when entering the driver's seat. But then at the same time, there's car ghosts? Is there car unfinished business? Why is this like this? Ultimately, though, Car Jesus died for car sins. He was probably like he was probably a wagon. A lot of real life equivalents actually. Sally has a tramp stamp. She's implied to be conventionally attractive. I understand, but I also don't. Ramon's car mods could be treated a lot like piercings after they provide a really similar taboo reaction by strangers. I would say that's pretty accurate. Finn McMissile's an interesting choice. I would argue he's a cyborg. Just a car with a bunch of spy mods. That's literally what a cyborg is. In exchange, though, we gotta acknowledge that since planes and submarines exist, they can feel the other vehicles inside them. Vor. By the way, the nipples, I really hope that future employers never see this, but yeah, the headlights, and they're treated like nipples. That's McQueen's entire gimmick with the ka-chow thing, you know, he gets flashed by some of his fans. What do they need to pay taxes? And then we got this weirdo. Her name's Celine. This is apparently enough to scare Mater, when, remind you, both of these characters, if they were human, look like this. I would say the nipple eyes beat the exposed ribcage. Now let's talk about world history in this universe. No matter how you cut it, every human event that happened in history happens in the Cars world. I thought that maybe the Pixar theory, the idea that every Pixar movie happens in the same timeline, could maybe provide an argument that the humans died or left during WALL-E, and then Cars replaced all the humans for everything. But no! This is straight up a continuity with billions of years worth of vehicle evolution. We can see cars leave the waters as submarines. We know about prehistoric history. We know that every country, every event, every second, every person is identical. Real world figures exist in cars as cars, implying that in this world there is a one-for-one recreation of everyone. I have a car version, you have a car version, we all do. I don't know what this means if you're like a warplane or something, because there is war. Objective dogfight death, known veterans, documented tragedies, wars, assassinations, gender inequality, corrupt industries in business, moonshiners. It's all here, all canon. I understand how everything works, but then there's just equivalents. We can use the cars to learn about our world. Like Lightning McQueen knows what hell is. We have proof of several afterlives existing. And of course, this means all countries exist. There's clear cultural differences. For example, Luigi and Guido are obviously Italian. Italy exists and the cultures exist. That's why Luigi got like an Italian haircut. It's kind of funny. The implication of Italy existing means that Italian food exists in some capacity. Luigi mentions rotini pasta, for example, and somehow this escalates to even more real-life foods. Mater eats wasabi thinking it's ice cream, meaning that they do milk the tractors. McQueen finds himself covered in frosting. There's alcohol in bars, and no car can drink that with their wheels unless you're a forklift. Only the forklifts have hands. So in this case, I'm gonna assume that the cars have two stomachs. One for car stuff, one for a fun stomach. But if they're drinking oil and stuff, how do they have white teeth? Are these even teeth? They don't have, like, lines in between them. They're just one giant tooth. Except for Mater. Mater has teeth. McQueen has the nubs. I don't know what these are. It only gets worse. I went through every piece of Cars media, and oh my god, it never ends. Why is oil simultaneously piss and blood? There's an Arnold Schwarzenegger carmobile car. Do cars get muscular? Are there bodybuilders? How would that work? These gyms only have treadmills. Those would be the only machines that could function. Why do handguns exist? In the first movie, Lightning thinks that the sheriff is shooting at him. And why would he do that? You can only shoot at the tires. You're not gonna kill the car. Why are there so many buildings that are inaccessible to larger vehicles? There's a truck stop, but none of the trucks can fit in it. Does that mean there's different sized bathrooms? How come besides racers, the only famous people are exclusively cars? Why would the vehicles choose to let trains exist, and what purpose do they serve? If they get paid, what do they spend their money on? They can't go anywhere, or live anywhere, or do anything. If the space shuttles and rockets are sentient, what purpose do they serve? Can they even make it back to Earth? What do the space shuttles do when they're not in space? Can they breathe in space? Why does this car exist? This is a one-for-one recreation of Earth. How do companies still function? You can't do anything with like a computer or anything. How do they edit these little TVs and stuff? What's stopping all the non-cars from giving up from existing? Like, they can't really pursue any hobbies or free will. They're restricted to the sea or train tracks or all of that stuff. Are none of the machines like Bob the Builder machines? Do they need construction stuff? None of it matters. None of it matters. None of it matters. Let me ask you a question. Why is this the franchise that people get caught up on? Why do people only drop their suspension of belief for this? They are humans if humans were cars. Why do we ask all of these questions when it's just that? Yeah, I know world building doubles upon itself conceptually and it's all illogical, but when isn't something not real ridiculous? It's fiction. We have stories from Pixar alone about talking toys, talking bugs, feelings who have feelings who have feelings who have feelings. No! this is the one that people care about. The Cars stories can basically be made into human beings doing like marathon running or something, and it could be identical to the current story. So let's just take a breather and talk about what we know about some of the characters, like show how realistic they can be. Lightning McQueen is a rookie celebrity who likes dinosaurs and horror movies. He actually praises a director for not using CGI. He's just like any of us. You could know some classmate or someone exactly like McQueen. Now, Mater's a bit of a free spirit. He was born into riches, if you can believe that, and he even has a sister. I don't really see what they have in common, but I do know that Mater needs a car wash. He looks rather stinky. But then you look at Radiator Springs and we have a whole cast of characters. Sarge, the sheriff, Doc, Lizzie, the wife of the founder Stanley. How did they make this statue then? Because the only people who could even make anything with like precise precisions are the forklifts. Like Guido. Guido's easily the most important player when it comes to McQueen's racing skills. Speedrunning his tire repairs, speaking Italian. That's the entire character. I'm sorry. Interesting to note though, the only pitties in any of these races are the forklifts, and most of the mechanics are forklifts, and most of everything gets done by forklifts. Look at Guido, he's crossing his arms. Regardless of how you look at the vehicles, objectively speaking, they are quadruped animals with 4 legs. These wheels are legs before arms. Forklifts are the exception. They are the only ones with arms. They are doing all the precise work, the tire changes, typing on computers, using a clapboard, giving wasabi to customers. The forklifts are doing what no other vehicle could. They are by far the most useful type of vehicle in the entire Cars universe. In exchange for slower speeds, they instead gain the endless capabilities of being bipedal. And so that just leaves us with the question, why aren't there more forklifts? They are objectively the most functional in doing anything. And since we already know that there's suppression, gender inequality, all the schisms in the schism decks, I think there's a very good chance the forklifts are being oppressed. You heard me. This isn't a bit or a joke. The forklifts are doing everything they have to be. Car computers are a near impossibility. I don't see trains in the warehouses manufacturing. The space shuttles aren't going to be working in the car hospitals. It has to be the forklifts. They're oppressed. They are fed scraps of the harsh reality. The forklifts deserve so much more. They are holding everything together. Every other vehicle instantly becomes useless without the efforts of the working forklift class. Oh, by the way, there's a TSA. Do what you will with that knowledge. I hate this series. There will always be something unanswered. I'm never gonna be happy about it. And I look at Pixar and I can't help but...
Hey, I'm the library lady. Shut up. Like, this is a library, alright? Like, stop being the way that you are.
Alright, I'm sorry, I'll stop. Wait, this is my library. How did you get into my house?